And today we have the 8th webinar of the EaP Plus project, and it's dedicated to legal and financial issues of Horizon 2020. And I will start the presentation by talking about the EaP Plus project just very shortly and its main activities. And the EaP Plus is a multi-level support action, which means that it's a 3-year-long project, coordination and support action project, and it's funded from Horizon 2020. And the project is dedicated to the EU EaP STI Science Technology Innovation Cooperation. This year is the last year of the project, and the project will end in August. The project includes partners from all the 6 Eastern Partnership countries and from several EU member states. And the objectives of the project is to support the EU EaP policy dialogue, to foster interaction between the EU and EaP researchers and to promote Horizon 2020, and also to enhance the EU EaP research innovation partnership. What we do within the project is, for example, we have grants for EaP researchers to attend brokerage events in European Union or preparatory meetings for Horizon 2020 project preparation. And the grants are still open. I will mention them in one moment. We conduct information days and we provide the support for NCP network in EaP countries. We also conducted the workshops with scientific diaspora, and we developed the webinars to present the Horizon 2020 and also innovation-related topics. And I will mention the grants for networking. The grants are for research institutions, SMEs, industry, local authorities, and civil society based in EaP countries. They are for attending brokerage events or preparatory meetings of Horizon 2020 projects. And the candidates can apply for one event scheduled until July 12th this year. And the final deadline for submission of your application is May 30th. So you can find the guidelines at this address, and all the presentations will be available at the EaP Plus project website. I will shortly mention the cooperation barometer. We are inviting you to fill in the barometer and share your experience with EU EaP cooperation. The goal is to measure the development of framework conditions, cooperation opportunities, and potentials of the bi-regional STI cooperation. It takes about 10 minutes to complete the whole survey, so please do that if you can. And the deadline is March 22nd, so this week. And the guidelines are also on the EaP Plus webpage. You can see it here, and the presentation will show it to you later. We have other planned webinars. One of them would be devoted to the new Horizon Europe program, which will be in May, June. We don't have the date set yet. And we have the webinar on internationalization of RDI activities, exploring models of international innovation partnerships. It will be in May. And if you would like to suggest something that we can discuss as a webinar, please write to us. We can always try to accommodate your questions. This is the project website, eipplus.eu. All information will be there, including presentations. And I am passing the word to our speakers from the Polish National Contact Point. One of them is Bartosz Majewski. He is an expert on legal issues of Horizon 2020. And Barbara Tramer, she is our expert on financial issues. So I'm switching the presentation. It may take just 1 minute, so please be patient.
Hello, can you hear me? No.
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Yes, everything is okay? Great. Okay, my name is Bartosz Majewski, and today we'll talk about legal and financial issues of Horizon 2020 together with Ms. Barbara Tramer. Oops. I'll start with tell you about rules for participation and basics of Horizon 2020 program. Then we'll go to financial aspects. We'll tell you about cost eligibility criteria, budget categories, funding schemes and limits, reports and audits, and payment modalities. And at the end, I will tell you about new funding and tenders portal. I'll show you how it looks like today. So we'll start with rules for participation. The first question that we'll address is who can participate. So Horizon 2020 is open to the world, so everybody can participate in Horizon 2020 program. It is enough if you have legal personality, so any company, research center, or organization or an individual can apply for funding. Horizon 2020 divides countries into member states, associated countries, and other countries. All of these countries can participate in Horizon 2020 program. The only difference is that not all of the countries can be eligible for funding. Only legal entities established in a member state or associated country and legal entities established in the third countries identified in the work program can be financed. The countries on that list are eligible for fundings because they are not considered as industrialized countries or emerging economies. Industrialized countries or emerging economies such as Brazil, Russia, India, China, or Mexico can be funded only if call for proposal clearly states that applicants based in such countries are eligible for funding, or the participation is deemed essential for carrying out the action. And it is case-by-case assessment, so you must write down in the proposal that the participation is essential for carrying out the action, and then such a participant can be funded. And it is because of outstanding competence, access to research infrastructure, or access to particular geographical environment. And the third option is when there is a bilateral scientific and technological agreement. We have this agreement in health part of the program where European Commission signed a contract with United States. So the general rule is that you must apply for funding as a consortium. It must be composed from three independent legal entities. Each of them should be established in different member state or associated country. And by the way of derogation, the minimum condition shall be participation of one legal entity, but it is an exception, and it is only in coordination and support actions, training and mobility actions, so the Maria Skłodowska-Curie actions, ERC, and SME instrument. So in these four exceptions, you may apply for funding as a single entity. The most important agreement in Horizon 2020 is grant agreement. It is an agreement concluded between European Commission coordinator and all of the partners. So all of those members must sign the grant agreement. We have a general grant agreement, and it is used for research and innovation actions, and coordination and support actions. So they are the most common types of action. Today we'll tell you about the rules resulting from the general model grant agreement. There are also specific model grant agreements. They have generally the same rules, but they have some derogations in some articles. So we have around 40 types of specific model grant agreement, but it's very used to see what are the differences when you go into the annotated model grant agreement. There you will find out that when you read the annotated model grant agreement after the general model grant agreement is explained, then the specific model grant agreements are explained only in these parts that are different than model grant agreements. So sometimes it is only one article that there is a difference between general model grant agreement and specific model grant agreement. And the annotated model grant agreement is really useful document, and you can find 99% of the answers that you have concerning legal and financial rules. So please, if you have any questions, always try to look at annotated model grant agreement. The second very important agreement is consortium agreement, which is concluded only between consortium members. So the Commission is not a side of this agreement. Consortium agreement is mandatory unless the work program says otherwise. We have many types of model consortium agreements. The most popular is DESCA model. You can download it from the site that you can see on the on your monitor. We have also M-Card model grant agreement, EU-Card model consortium agreement. Sorry. The general rule is that they must not contain any provision contrary to grant agreement. It should cover the internal organization of the consortium, distribution, how the distribution of EU funding will be carried out, how to deal with foreground and background, how to set the internal disputes, the confidentiality, how to deal with receipts, etc. So this is the basics of Horizon 2020 in very short. And now I will give the mic to my colleague Barbara Trommer.
Hello everybody. I will be talking about the financial aspects of Horizon 2020, and I will be covering in my presentation some points my colleague mentioned before, so I'm not going to repeat that. What is this? The purpose of this part of the webinar? It's to provide you with the information which will be necessary or needed at this stage of building a budget to the proposal, at the stage of managing the project during project realization, and at the stage of reporting costs. So we will start talking about eligibility conditions of cost in Horizon 2020. They are quite general, but they are important for us, and they are important, of course, during the reporting, because we must know the eligibility criteria, we must know which costs are eligible in Horizon 2020, but they are also important at the stage of preparing the budget table for Horizon, because we should know what kind of project, what kind of cost we are able to include in the budget table. So I will be talking about the general conditions of eligibility in Horizon 2020 at the stage of reporting, of course. The cost should be actually incurred by the beneficiary. It means that this cost shouldn't be estimated or foreseen. This should be just costs which are really incurred, and we should have the documents for proving this cost. The documents could be different. It depends on the kind of cost, but we should have invoices or salary slips and so on. The cost must be incurred during project duration. They should be indicated in the estimated budget included in Annex 2 to the grant agreement. And the costs are foreseen for each beneficiary and for all the consortium as well. The cost should be connected to the action and necessary for action implementation. They should be recorded in the beneficiary accounts. In case of audit, the beneficiary should be able to identify these costs and enable the auditor to verify the costs connected to the project. Costs should be calculated according to accounting rules at the beneficiary's usual cost accounting and the beneficiary's usual cost accounting practices. It's very important rule because and convenient for the beneficiaries, because they don't have to change their rules in order to take part in Horizon 2020, but generally they should follow their normal rules and practices. And the cost should be incurred in compliance with national laws on taxes, labor and social security, and they also should be reasonable, justified, in accordance with sound financial management. It means that they should be not excessive and incurred in line with good housekeeping practice. It's good to remember that costs related to preparing, submitting and negotiating the proposal are not eligible. So the cost of proposal writing should be covered by each beneficiary themselves. Here we have some examples of non-eligible costs. Excessive or reckless expenditures are, of course, non-eligible. Deductible VAT. Deductible VAT is also non-eligible. Deductible VAT means VAT that is possible to be recovered under the national VAT system. So in this situation, when it's possible to recover that VAT, it's not eligible cost. Conversely, if VAT is not deductible, it's an eligible cost. So this is the rule, specific rule for Horizon 2020. Provisions for future losses or debts, currency exchange losses, what is important for countries with currency other than euro, is not eligible, and debt service charges are not eligible cost as well. Here we have the classification of cost in Horizon 2020. Total eligible project costs are divided into two parts, and this division is in use at the stage of preparing the budget and also at the stage of reporting. So we have the group of direct costs. These direct costs are costs which are directly needed for project realization. These costs are personal costs, cost of travels, purchasing goods, services, cost of subcontracting, which are directly connected to the project activities. And we have the second group of costs, indirect costs. These costs are not directly related to the project, but they are necessary for the project realization. And you have on the slide some examples: depreciation of buildings, water, gas, electricity, petty office equipment, administration, etc. I would like to remind you that the general administration of the beneficiary will be not part of the direct cost, but part of the indirect costs. These indirect costs are quite simple to calculate in Horizon 2020 because it's 25%. It's the flat rate of 25% calculated from direct costs without subcontracting. So we don't calculate this 25% from subcontracting. It's good to remember, to know that the accounting documentation as a proof for incurring costs is necessary only for direct costs. Indirect costs are is a kind of flat rate, so they don't need supporting evidence. And if the auditor comes, he will ask you to show records for direct cost and also the proving documentation for direct cost, but they will not ask you for any proof in relation to indirect costs. So now we will talk very shortly about each category of direct cost. It means about personal costs, subcontracting, and other costs. Other costs include travel and subsistence costs, equipment, purchase of goods and services. So let's start from personal costs, which is the most interested part, I think. If we are talking about personal costs in Horizon 2020, we are generally talking about personal cost for employees or equivalent. It means persons working for the beneficiary on the basis of an employment contract or equivalent appointing act. It's in the case of different kinds of civil servants. I would like to tell you about the new feature of the remuneration, salaries, personal costs in Horizon 2020. Because there was a change in February 2017 in the model grant agreement, in the rules, in the definition of basic remuneration. In the past, the basic remuneration was the payment for the employee's normal work. And now, after this change, the definition of basic remuneration, which is eligible for Horizon 2020 change, and it's the payment for the employee's normal work and participation in projects. up to what is the beneficiary's usual remuneration practice for national projects. So this change enables participants to pay additional bonuses, additional money to the personnel who is realizing the projects of Horizon 2020. But this bonus may be at the level of bonuses in for national projects. The details about this change, about this regulation, you may find at the annotated model grant agreement, page 57 to 63, and I would suggest you to get familiar with that because it's important part. It's also not so simple and easy, maybe, because organization should introduce or have the special regulation which will be in use for Horizon 2020 and other projects. The personal cost cover the payment, the salary or bonus, plus social security contributions, plus taxes included in the remuneration, should be paid in accordance with national law and the employment contract or equivalent appointing act. It's not possible to include into the eligible personal cost arbitrary bonuses. You must remember that any kind of bonus which is arbitrary is not eligible in Horizon 2020. Timesheets are necessary for Horizon projects, but not for the persons who work exclusively for the project. In this case, such persons don't have to prepare the timesheets. They just sign the special declaration which is provided by the Commission in the documents. Now let's pass to subcontracting. Subcontracting is a kind of purchase of services outside the consortium. It's based on business condition. It means that subcontractor charges a price which usually includes profit. So it's quite a different kind of claiming reporting cost that in the case of beneficiaries who report their costs. The beneficiaries must base their subcontracts on the best value for money, considering the quality of the services proposed. Subcontracting concerns implementation of project tasks described in Annex 1. It means that subcontracting is about some substantial parts of the projects. And what is important, only limited part of the action may be subcontracted. It's because the action should be done, implemented by the project partners, by the beneficiaries, generally speaking, and the involvement of subcontractor is a kind of exception. In some situation, it's necessary and acceptable, but it must refer to the limited part of the action. Subcontracting, what is also quite important to know, should be indicated in Annex 1. So at the stage of preparing the budget and the proposal, you should indicate the subcontracting and all the subcontracting you foresee in your project, and describe them and foresee the cost of each subcontracting. and it should be indicated in the Annex 1. Cost as a global sum must be set out in Annex 2 to the grant agreement. Examples of subcontracting: testing of the resistance of a new component under high temperature, if described in Annex 1 as project task; building of a prototype or pilot plan, if described in Annex 1 as project task. So subcontracting is something what is really described as a task in the project. It's good to remember that subcontracting between beneficiaries is not allowed in the same grant agreement. All beneficiaries contribute to and are interested in the action. If one beneficiary needs the services of another in order to perform its part of the work, it's the second beneficiary who should declare the cost for that work. So we don't subcontract between beneficiaries. Each beneficiary is doing his work and paying from his own budget. Other direct costs includes travel and subsistence, equipment, purchase of goods, and services. Travel and subsistence, each organization have their own rules. There are national rules also very often for travel and subsistence, and the beneficiaries should follow their normal rules they use in their practice. So the travel and subsistence cost, of course, may be different for different partners in the consortium because they are following different rules. About equipment, it's important to say that only the depreciation of equipment can be charged, and as the general rule in Horizon 2020. And purchase of goods and services is also eligible cost in Horizon 2020, and this purchase of services may be confused sometimes with subcontracting. I will show you the examples of purchase of goods and services, and it's, for example, audit certificate on the financial statements, translation of documents, conference fees, publications of brochures, and so on. So we are talking here about minor services, about purchasing of minor services, which are not the core services of the project, but rather auxiliary services of the project. And on this slide, I would like to show you the difference between subcontracts and contracts for services. Subcontracts concern the implementation of action tasks as described in Annex 1. Contracts for services do not concern action tasks, but they are necessary to implement action tasks by the beneficiaries. So contracts, they refer to the minor services for the necessary to implement the project. Subcontract must be indicated in Annex 1 and must be indicated at the stage of preparing the proposal. As contracts do not have to be indicated in Annex 1. Subcontracts are declared at the stage of budget preparation and at the stage of reporting as direct cost of subcontracting, and contracts for services are declared as other direct costs. And the last thing, that no indirect costs are calculated on subcontracts, and for contracts for services, 25% of indirect cost is calculated. So these are the main changes between contracts and subcontracts, because it's quite often confusing for beneficiaries. what is subcontract, what is contract for services. So now I would like to say a few words about EC contribution. The main funding schemes, the main kind of projects in Horizon 2020 are research and innovation actions, and coordination and support actions. And these kinds of projects are reimbursed by the Commission as follows: research and innovation action in 100%, innovation action for non-profit organizations is financing 100%. In innovation actions, in case of for-profit organization, is financing 70%, and coordination and supporting actions are financed in 100%. The project, all the project duration is divided into reporting period. The reporting period may last 18 months or one year. It depends on the kind of project and the duration of the project, but always within 60 days following the end of each reporting period, the consortium is obliged to submit a periodic report, or after the end of the project, the final report to the Commission. It's worth mentioning that the budget, which is foreseen in Annex 2, is an estimation, and the reported cost may differ from budgeted costs. During the implementation of the project, budget may be transferred between the beneficiaries and between the cost categories. And it may be done without any the need of amendment, the formal amendments, which must be discussed, of course, with the European Commission. So this may be done without this amendment if this change doesn't influence the realization of the project. So if the action is implemented as it is described in the Annex 1, you don't have to make amendment for budget reallocation between beneficiaries or between categories of costs. Certificate on the financial statements is obligatory if a beneficiary requests a total contribution of 325,000 euro or more as reimbursement of actual costs. It should be done, it's requested with the final report. It means at the end of the project. It should be done in compliance with request of the Commission and the pattern which is included to the grant agreement as Annex 5. If a beneficiary should submit this certificate on the financial statements to the Commission, he should engage the external auditor who will come to the organization and check if the costs incurred and recorded are properly incurred in compliance with the national regulation, with the rules and practices of the beneficiary. And payment modalities. European Commission money transfer payments to the coordinator, and the coordinator is obliged to distribute the payments to the partners. It's not very exactly defined how it should be done, and it should be decided within the consortium agreement. And this consortium agreement should define how much, when should be distributed to the partners. So the consortium agreement is very important document also in the aspect of cost distribution within the consortium of money distribution. You can see that the consortium will get one pre-financing, one or several interim payments. It depends on the duration of the project, and also payment of the balance after the end of the project. And now I would like to ask my colleague to continue with participant portal and useful information on that. Thank you.
Hello. I will tell you about participant portal and a few tips with useful information. I go very fast. The first thing is that we don't have participant portal anymore. Now we have funding and tender opportunities portal, and if you are interested in Horizon 2020 work program, then you must click on Horizon 2020 button. Then you will see the starting page, and if you click on search and funding and tenders, you will have the possibility to look for the proper call, and you will find the call for proposals for many parts of program Horizon 2020 program. On the left, you have the search button, and you can search the topic that you want. If you click on the topic that you are interested in, then you will see the information about this topic, and on the bottom on the left, here you can find the topic updates, topic description, and all the documents referred to this call, especially for example, proposal template. The second tab is how to participate. When you click on it, you will find first of all the key steps, especially how to find the call, how to find the partners, how to create your account, how to register or submit a proposal. You can also have an access to online manual, which is the place that you can find all the basic information about how to register, how to create your account, and so on. The second page of how to participate is reference documents. Here you can find all the documents which are important for Horizon 2020, not only legislation and work programs, but also general grant agreements, annotated model grant agreements, all the templates, everything what is connected with Horizon 2020 documents is here. The third tab of how to participate is participant register. Here you can find if your organization have a PIC number, and if your organization does not have a PIC, you can register your organization. The fourth tab in how to participate is partner search. Here you can find the profiles of the partners. You have the search tool that you can try to find your partner. And what I wanted to stress that not only online manual is a very important document, but also IT how-to, which is the manual of funding and tender opportunities portal. So you can all the information on how to serve through funding and tenders portal. You will find there information about all the functionalities of funding and tender opportunities portal. The second tab is project and results, and what I want to show you is Horizon the dashboard, which is a very useful tool with all the information, all the statistics of signed grants. Here you can choose the country. I choose Armenia, and you can see how many grants have been signed, how many participations there are, what is Horizon 2020 contribution, and you will find all statistics, almost all statistics that you are interested in about Horizon 2020 projects, especially for your country. You can divide it into the types of action, of types of the beneficiaries, so it's really useful. You can also check how many projects the beneficiaries have. So this is the place that I think can be useful for you. The third tab is work on an expert. Here you can register as an expert. I won't go into the details because we don't have time, but it is very good opportunity. Like being an expert is very good opportunity to learn how to write proposals, to learn what's going on scientific Europe world. So that's a very good experience, and here you can register as an expert. And the last tab is support button, and then you can find the reference documents, online manual, IT how-to. What I want to show you is also the frequently asked questions tab, where you can, now there is 1,500 questions and answers, and it is really useful. Especially you can write down the name of your call, and then there are sometimes the questions specifically addressed to your call, so it's really useful. Here you can find help desk and support service. You have IT help desk, which is very good service if you have problems with funding and tenders portal, and sometimes there are some mistakes. It is the place that you should write to. Europe Direct, it is the place that you can directly ask the question to Commission. Research and Query Service is also such a place. You have also the contacts for NCPs. Okay, and what about the functionalities of funding and tender opportunities? First of all, we have electronic signature system, so we don't sign the documents in paper, we sign it electronically. We sign grant agreement, financial statements, and amendments to grant agreement electronically. The most important thing when you want to sign a document is that you need to have a LEAR. LEAR is legal entity appointed representative, and his task is to appointment an organization's role, keeping organization's data up to date, and LEAR can view a list of all projects carried out by an organization. If you want to appoint a LEAR, you must fill in all the documents that are listed here. You must have also a copy of passport, and you must, like 2 years ago, you have to fill in all those documents and send it by the post. But since 2018, you are just doing it electronically. You are just sending it through your organization's account. Here you can find all the rows which are present in Horizon 2020 Funding and Tenders Opportunity portal. The LEAR, it is the only role that can be only one LEAR in your organization. Account administrator is the person who has the same responsibilities as a LEAR, but you don't have to fill in all these documents. Only LEAR can nominate account administrator, so it's much easier to appoint account administrator, and it is really useful because sometimes there is no LEAR in the office and something must be done with the account, so account administrator always can do that. Then the LEAR can nominate L-sign and F-sign. L-sign is the person who is entitled to sign grant agreements, and F-sign is a person who is entitled to sign financial statements. We have also project roles. We have coordinator contacts. They can be nominated by primary coordinator contact, and they have full read and write access to their own and the common e-forms, and they can submit it to Commission and via Funding and Tenders Opportunities portal. We have participant contacts, which is the most important person in the projects, in the participating beneficiary. He can be nominated either by coordinator contact or by participant contact. And they have also full read and write access to their own forms, and they have read-only rights to certain common forms. We have task managers. They can read, modify, and save their own entities forms. We have team members. They have only read access. And we have PL signs and PF signs. These are the persons who can sign specific specific grant agreement or specific financial statement. Okay, and here's the panel that is that you can look only when you are logged in, and I want to show you how the managed project site looks like. As you can see, this is the project site, and as you can see, there have been 2 amendments on this project. If you have project reporting, then there is a separate box on project reporting, and you must fill in all the information that are requested there. So here is also this is the place that is used for project reporting. Now we have only continuous reporting open, which is open through the whole cycle of the project, and I want to show you how it looks like. Here you can see that you have all deliverables, all milestones, and they are listed. You have the due date, when it has been submitted, when the project officer have accepted that, what kind of information is public, what kind of information is confidential. So it is, as you can see, the project officer can see everything what is going on through the whole cycle of the project. You should always have in mind that everything that is important in the project, especially deliverables, or if you are making a publication, then you must fill in this information and keep it up to date. And when it comes to financial validation, it is only required for coordinators. So if you are normal beneficiary, not the coordinator of your single entity, you don't need to, you won't be financial validated by commission. And the coordinator is only validated if the requested contribution is over 500,000 euros. The financial validation is valid for a period of 18 months, and it is not performed on in case of public bodies, international organizations, and single applicants. So, if you are, you will be checked on if you are coordinator and SME, for example, or big enterprise. You can always check your financial viability by using financial viability self-check. And the last thing that I wanted to tell you about is open access. Open access is the way how you make your publication visible in the internet. It is open access. We mean it is free availability of the on the public internet without any financial, legal, or technical barriers of your scientific publication. We have two models of open access. Green, which is self-archiving. It may be immediately or delayed. It depends on the nature of publication. And we have gold open access, which is publishing in open access journals. It is immediately, but usually we must pay for it. The good information is that all open access costs are eligible for reimbursement. Commission supports both gold and green model of open access. The publication should be made available immediately in any of the two open access models. Beneficiary must take all measures in order to provide open access to data that is necessary for verification of the statements made in the publication. There is also requirement to ensure open access to metadata. And Commission has set up following embargo periods for green open access when you don't need to make it immediately open for everybody. It is 6 months and 12 months in case of social sciences and humanities. Here is the table showing up that if you want to publicate, then you must do it in open access model. But remember that if you want to exploit or patent, you don't go for publication, because then it may be not. It may result that you won't be able to patent anything. Okay, and who can you contact if you have questions about participant Horizon 2020? First of all, you have your own legal and financial NCPs. You have always ask Commission through Research Inquiry Service. If you have questions regarding IPR, you can go to IPR Help Desk. And of course, you have also what I've showed you. You have also frequently asked questions and annotated model grant agreement. Here are the links which may be helpful for you: funding and tenders portal, then annotated model grant agreement, the Bible of Horizon 2020. Some of people say that. Horizon 2020 manual, which is also very good tool, and Research Inquiry Service. Okay, thank you very much. Do you have any questions? No. Or maybe we can wait for them a little bit.
If you have a question, you can always write it on the left side of your screen, or you can mail our presenters after the presentation. We don't see any questions at the moment. The presentation was recorded and will be available on the EaP Plus project website, as well as the presentation files and the addresses which you use in corresponding with us. So if you missed some points, go through the presentation again, recommend it to your colleagues, and you are welcome to stay with us in the future, to stay in touch with us. We don't see any questions on our side, so we will finish our presentation and this webinar. Thank you all for participation, and greetings from Warsaw to all of you, and best regards from us, and wishes of the successes in your work. So goodbye.